Nick Rekieta has officially transitioned from being a non-practicing lawyer to being a non-practicing non-lawyer. And this is, of course, on top of already being a non-practicing parent of five, and more or less just a pathetic excuse for a man. I mean, how are you gonna help make a family go with five children and let any of them test positive for illicit substances? I don't know. I don't know. Couldn't be me. But here is the form. I just censored a bit of his address here and his lawyer ID. I wasn't sure if that's a bad thing to put out there, but otherwise, this is just how it was posted to Kiwi Farms by Captain Manning. So it says, as of his date admitted 5/8/15, so I think that's when he became a lawyer. His last payment was 10/10/23, so like a year ago, and the next payment was due 10/1/24, but he missed that, and he is no longer authorized to practice law. And you can see here the non-compliant status, non-payment of fees. Lawyer does represent private clients. So not great for him. I saw people posting on the farms that it's $274. That's all that he would have needed to pay. And I do believe that if he just pays the fees or whatever, he can get reinstated. So it's not as if he's banned from being a lawyer forever. But I mean, it does just seem very, very stupid that you would let that lapse, especially if it is actually just over $274. But yeah, shout outs to Captain Manning. He said, I don't think he holds a license in any other jurisdiction either. Non practicing, non lawyer. I anticipated this might finally happen, so I kept checking this past week, including yesterday, and it flipped over to not authorized today. It was very funny to think that there's people out there just checking every day to see if Nick Rekieta is still licensed to practice law. Like, man, you really have to spiral pretty far where people are like interested enough to go and check that nearly daily. He's probably got the money, so I think it's the CLE credits that fucked him. Somebody pointed out earlier they were due this year. I think CLE is like continued learning something. I don't know, but you have to probably take a couple credits every few years or whatever to maintain your license. However, if you'd like a good alternate theory where CLE credits weren't the main issue, oh, that's somewhere else. But and then Daffodils posted a screenshot from October 7th where Nick Rekieta was chatting. I think this means he was chatting to Patrick Melton because it's got the Nobody Likes Onions logo there. But as of October 7th, Nick Rekieta says, I still have commercial clients that require zero court work. Well, not anymore. You're not allowed to represent them, Nick. But on top of that, this lady here, who's going by Kay, I think that's just her initial, not her name, but she showed up to one of the recent court hearings. I think it was the one where Kayla's attempt to get a Franks hearing approved was shot down. And Nick was there, of course, but none of their family really. And she reached out to TV's Wil Herren and gave him an interview. And I cut it down a little bit. The full thing's like 24 minutes or so, and this is about half of it. But it's a good interview. I recommend watching the whole thing. I'll link it.
What made you want to go to Kayla's hearing?
Um, I didn't plan on going. I debated on it for a while. I had other plans come up, and so I wasn't going to go. And then those plans fell through last minute, and I was like, oh, why not? I have nothing else to do today. I had plans, so let's just.
So she didn't even plan to utterly own this man. It just some free time popped up, and she's like, "Oh, I might as well go embarrass Nick Rekieta."
Go ahead and see what it's all about. And I checked out online, and it didn't seem like maybe anybody was going, so I was like, well, maybe I'll find out and be, um, you know, somebody that can clear up what's going on there.
Yeah, definitely, because you physically saw them as you were there. Is this the first Rekieta court hearing that you've been to?
No, I did go to his omnibus hearing too.
Oh, okay, so
She's an enthusiast. though. She did casually show up, but she is an enthusiast. It's just very funny to think, 'cause I'm from Minnesota, and she absolutely reminds me of like people that went to church and stuff. It's very funny to think of one of the middle-aged people that went to church in the city I grew up in is doing this.
You think like he recognized you when you were there?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I mean, it was small last time, and then with me being there, yeah,
So, are you a kiwi farmer?
absolutely not. No, I didn't know about kiwi farms until also this case. Now I have gone and read the threads. I don't have an account, but I have read the threads to get caught up when big things happen now. So
Well, you
So not a Kiwi farmer, but Nick did convert her to a casual user. Very funny. Very funny again. Just somebody at church going on to Kiwi farms. Like obviously it happens. It's a just a numbers game, but it is funny to actually see it.
don't post or anything like that.
never, I've never posted, and I don't have an account. Last time for Nick's hearing, when I got there like 10 minutes before it started, and there was everybody waiting in the hallway, and then we got ushered into the courtroom. This time it was just me sitting out there. They were late, and I got led into the courtroom before they got there. And so I was just sitting alone in the courtroom with Kayla's lawyer.
Crazy that even though this free time just popped up, she still beats them to the court. Well, like, yeah, it's just somebody who had some free time show up is taking it more seriously than Nick Rekieta still.
And then I think the prosecuting attorney uh, or whoever was, yeah. And that was, I waited for them, and they showed up late, and they stayed out in the hallway for like 5 minutes talking with her lawyer. Um, but it wasn't very far from me, and I could see they were frazzled. I could see the tension between the two of them.
What do you mean by frazzled? Like, I know what the word means, but can you kind of explain that a little bit? Like, were they disheveled? Were their clothes off? Was their hair not done properly? Like, it looked like it was in a bun, but I'm not the fashion police either. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, explain that.
You don't need to be the fashion police to recognize a bun, Will. What?
Please.
So she was in a bun. Her hair was in a bun. They came.
Thank you for confirming those rumors.
She came in with like a frantic kind of energy of like from being late, and peeked her head in to get her lawyer's attention, and her lawyer walked out to the hallway. It just was that energy of I'm late, and the lawyer was like, you're fine, you know, it's okay, and trying to calm her down because she just had that kind of frantic energy.
Like, what the hell are these people doing that's so important that they can't make it to court on time? I think PPP was saying on Keto Casino that he just thinks that Nick is pretty sure he's not going to get any prison time, so he's just not taking it seriously at all anymore, and he's just going to be a pain. And I mean, honestly, that kind of makes more sense than most things with the way that he's acted. Like, it's just crazy that you would show up late to that. Like neither of them have jobs. How do you not? How are you not able to make time for your court for your crimes?
Yeah. Did she say why she was late?
I did not hear a reason, no.
And like, I just say, like, what exactly did the judge say? But like, what did he say? Like, was it like initially like, why are you late, Miss Rekieta? Or was it like they got started and then he was like, why were you late? Or you were late? You know what I'm saying? Like, you talked about the admonishment.
Yeah, at the very end, right before he excused everybody, he just said, next time you need to set an alarm, do whatever you need to do to make sure you're here on time. That is your responsibility. So,
I mean, how childish to have to be told to maybe set an alarm next time so you can get here on time. Oof. Like a judge has to tell you that. Their time is way too valuable to be telling people they need to set alarms to show up on time.
Wow. So you better set an alarm clock.
whatever it takes.
What did she say? Was she like, yes, Your Honor? And they're like, what
She
was
said,
her?
yes, sir.
Like, could like like physically, could you like smell Nick? Could you kind of smell that he came in? Like, were there any things kind of going off, like when looking at him and stuff like that? Like, what was it like being near him?
I tried not to like stare at them, or I was trying to give off the vibe of like I'm just non-confrontational. Um, I'm just here to observe. And no, I wasn't close enough to smell him. His hair, he did have like
It's very funny to me how straight she answered that question. Like he stammers out, "Could you smell him?" And she's like, "No, I wasn't close enough to smell him."
bedhead or something going on in the back.
Oh, I've talked over that a little bit though.
His hair, he did have like bedhead or something going on in the back, like messy hair in the back.
Very rushed. So are they like just waking up, and that's why Kayla's hair is in a bun and he has bedhead? I mean, these people, they're entirely lost.
But I was staring at the back of his head, so
Because he was in front of you. So I guess Nick is kind of tall. Like, how big is Nick?
I would say 6'2", 6'3",
Oh wow,
at
probably
least.
slender.
Very slender.
But you said that Kayla looked like she had been getting healthier, or had looked better than the last time you saw her. Can you talk about that transformation? And then again, has Nick changed in your eyes?
Nick didn't dress as nice this time. Um, he looked about the same as far as how thin he was. Um, Kayla was super super thin the first hearing, and this time she had put on a little weight, and I think she looked a lot healthier. I know people are giving her a hard time um, about her butt and whatever, and I feel bad for that. I feel bad for Kayla.
I don't think Kayla looks terrible.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, they'll just say
See, Kay is fair and balanced. She's willing to admit, concede small W's to the Reketas. Kayla, you don't look like as much of a trash fire. I have to admit. So you can't say that this is biased against them or anything. This is objective reporting.
haters can't all be perfect. I think Kayla, you look very nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was dressed nicer than they were for court, but she looked nice. Like
These are just great casual, like aunt style roasts.
she looked healthier, and that I was happy to see that.
Did the judge or the lawyer kind of look at their clients and be like, hey, what's going on here? Why do you look so disheveled? Is there any kind of a back and forth between like her lawyer, like kind of like, hey, what's up with this?
I didn't hear anything like that. I was surprised the lawyer was just in like slacks, a blouse, and like a cardigan. Like it wasn't like what I would assume a lawyer would wear. So yeah, I was surprised by that. It was more casual than I expected.
Gotcha. Wow. Let's talk a little bit about. I'm assuming this is what took place before things were over. Nick had gotten up to catch you as you went outside. How did that work?
Well, the judge ended the hearing, and I was gathering my notebook and my purse and stuff. And when I looked up, I saw Nick had already left, and Kayla and her lawyer walking out. And then when I went in the hallway, I saw Nick was ahead of Kayla and her lawyer, and he went down the stairs, and they went straight into a conference room, Kayla and her lawyer. So I kept walking downstairs. Now our phones are in a locker out there. And I was distracted because I forgot to turn it. I had a timer set on my phone, and it was going off in the locker. Even though I turned my ringer off, it was still going off in the locker. So I was distracted.
She even turned the ringer off. Is that a widespread thing? Do other people say that? I feel like that's a Midwest thing to call it a ringer, but maybe not. Maybe it's just an older generation thing.
By hurrying up and getting my phone out of the locker to turn that alarm off. And when I turned around to walk, it's right next to the door. When I turned to walk out the door, I noticed he had his phone up towards the door. And I stopped, and in between there's two doors you can go out, but there's a section in between, and I stood there for a second where he couldn't see me, just to make sure he was recording, to see what I was walking out to. And as I looked around, he still was recording. So I went ahead and walked out, and asked him, like, "Oh, you're recording me." Now, at this point, I had not recorded him. When I walked,
This is great. Even though she said this, he's like 6'2", 6'3". She sees him recording her, just walks up, "Hey, you recording me?" I don't know if Nick would have it in him to do that, even to her or to anybody, you know?
he had his phone kind of like this, and but looking kind of to my left, like he wasn't looking directly at me. I was like, "So you're recording me?" And he's like, huh." And then stopped recording, put his phone down, started walking towards the door to go in. I said, "Wait, if you're going to record me, I have a few questions for you." And he's like, "Who are you?" And I said, "A concerned citizen." Now, I said that kind of to troll him. I know that was in the warrant. That
But it's just how great is it that this woman is dedicated enough to show up to the courthouse so that she can do a little bit of trolling to Nick Rekieta. It's just hilarious that he's brought this upon himself with just his obnoxious downward spiral has people like this invested in it.
it was called a concerned citizen, uh, and I was kind of caught off guard and just said the first thing that came to my head. Thinking about it, I don't want him to think I was the one who was the one calling it that made the report against them to get this started. I was not, and I'm also not Minnesota Public Records either, to just set the record straight, because I've seen that in the comments of people covering the video. So I am not. So when I told him, or he asked me who I am, and I said concerned citizen, he's like, "You're no concerned citizen," and put his head down and walked in the door where I was not able to. I didn't have my
He's in denial that anybody could actually be concerned about this. After everything he's broadcasted, you, you couldn't be a concerned citizen. That's ridiculous. You must be a doxing, harassing Kiwi farmer. That's the only possible explanation.
phone ready or anything when I walked out the door. I probably should have. I should have got it out when I saw he was recording. I should have took that time to then hold up my phone and record him back.
So as soon
That would have been good footage, but take what we can get. I couldn't be bothered to show up.
as he walked out of that locker room and was outside of the court building, he had his phone ready to record, basically.
He was recording before I walked out. Yeah.
Okay, wow. So it kind of like ambushed you. As you came out, he like was recording you.
Mm-hmm. There was no way I could get past him without him getting me. Yeah. And that is why I chose to show my face today. It's because, if he may feel like he has some power over me, that he can release that, and that I'm just going to disarm that and go ahead and show my face.
Yeah, good for you. So
That's how little she thinks of Nick Rekieta, that he might actually try to hold that video he has of her over her head and be like, "Oh, I know who you are. I can reveal." Because at first, she just gave a little bit of information to this guy. Well, she wasn't like trying to do a public interview or anything. She didn't even want him to play the video with the sound at first because she didn't want people to hear her voice. But then she thought about it. She's like, "Oh, actually, this guy's a lunatic. I should probably just put my face out there anyway before he does some weird stuff or tries to hold it over my head." Like, yeah, he's fully become a scumbag in the eyes of just normal people, not even haters.
let's talk a bit about was it intimidating when he was there like that and standing in front of you like that? If I remember correctly, you don't tell me how tall you are, but if I remember, you're not that tall, and so
I'm short.
Harrison, you're short. So as you came out the door, there's this 6'4", 6'3" slender man with this phone in front of you, and you know this kind of history and everything going on. Like, what was that like? Were you scared? Like,
I mean, it caught me off guard, and it did rattle me a little bit. But his reaction then pissed me off, like, of him, just his tone and the snarl he gave me when he's like, "You're no concerned citizen," you know.
He's snarling at people. I mean, what a loon. Who snarls in public?
I was like,
No, he's dogs. It's animalistic to be snarling.
"You don't know me, you're psychic now." And I am concerned. I am definitely concerned for his family.
When you had talked about a dark energy around Nick, what did you mean by that?
He just has a very troubled vibe about him. His eyes are dark. Um, he doesn't look completely sane, and that if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the dark energy, kind of craziness in the eyes, I wouldn't have been intimidated. He's kind of effeminate, even though he's very tall. Um,
I mean, she is roasting the fuck out of him. My God. Yeah, I think that's worth a re-listen.
and I am concerned. I am definitely concerned for his family.
When you had talked about a dark energy around Nick, what did you mean by that?
He just has a very troubled vibe about him. His eyes are dark. Um, he doesn't look completely sane, and that if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the dark energy, kind of craziness in the eyes, I wouldn't have been intimidated. He's kind of effeminate, even though he's very tall. He has a lot of effeminate gestures and movements, and
So if you ignore the dark energy, then she would have just thought, oh, this is an effeminate, unintimidating 6'3" man. But there is this darkness in his eyes, so he comes back around to being intimidating. But it has nothing to do with the fact that he towers over her or is a man. It is a darkness to him.
so I don't. If he didn't have that, yeah, like I said, the energy, the dark energy, the craziness in his eyes, I don't think I would have been, and his height, I wouldn't have been intimidated at all. But yeah, I was because of those things.
So, what was it like when you went outside and you decided to get that video? And he had just gotten video of you, like, I guess they were in the conference room, and then you'd waited for them to come outside, and then you got your footage. How did that work?
Yeah, I went across the street so I wouldn't be on the property. Um, so that's why the video quality is not that good. I had to zoom in as far as I could. I wanted to get the footage without being too intrusive.
Were you worried that he was going to come over and say something or do something at all?
It entered my mind, but I was ready for it. To stand up to him if he tried. Your kids are aware of so much more than you.
I did think he might confront me, but I thought I could handle him. Like she doesn't even mean to, but she really is roasting him throughout all of this.
Give them credit for. That's standard for all parents, but especially parents that are living a lifestyle that they think they're keeping things from their kids, that your kids are aware of so much more than you give them credit for. But two, my biggest question is, they had a whole ass house next door. Why didn't they keep that for their drugs and their sexcapades, to keep it away from their kids? They could have got a nanny or even nanny cams, since they're right next door, to keep that away from their kids. I would have a much different view. Plus, if you think about it, when they came with the warrant, he's not a very good criminal, because when they came with the warrant, if the drugs were in the other house, the warrant was for the main house. I don't think the warrant covered the other house. So the drugs.
Like Nick Rekieta, the lawyer, is getting out crimmed by this lady. Like, yeah, she's right. You could have just done a couple real easy things to mitigate your risk, but he chose to do none of them. None of them.
Wouldn't have even been in the house. But so it would have protected the kids and protected them. And it's just, I want to know why. Why didn't you use that house? That's just stupid.
It is. It was very stupid. And while all of this has been going on, he's been spiraling publicly, through Twitter and YouTube comments. Here are some that were highlighted that he was replying to the video that we just watched on Will's channel. Somebody says, excellent job, Will. So glad Kay did this interview and she had some astute observations. regarding the child testing positive for drugs and why she hit the mark. As someone who also had experiences as a child in an abusive environment, you know why the drugs were given and you know what was done to the child. People have been hesitant to go there in speculation, but those of us who know. Thanks again. I kind of cut part of that out, but she's saying basically that well, part of her upbringing was that adults used drugs to kind of basically to get kids addicted so that they would do things for the drugs. And she didn't say, that that's what Nick Rekieta is doing or whatever, but she did speculate that maybe it is. But Rekieta Law replies to this, "You people are disgusting." The great interview and perspective. Her personal story was touching and adds another layer to what was going on in the house. Great job. How would her story add a layer to what was going on in my house? This is a random weirdo who doesn't know anything about me. Thank you, Miss K. Nick doesn't want the public to believe that an average person would care enough about this case. I think her assessments were spot on. The presence of drugs in his child system was no accident. And then yeah, he's replying to the OP. So it wasn't an accident. It isn't real, you weirdo. 8-year-olds don't do cocaine. The test is completely bonkers, and it's obvious to anyone with a brain. And Cat Scratch replies, show proof that the tests were bonkers or shut the fuck up. And yeah, exactly. Like, if they've been debunked, just show them. Otherwise, I'm going to go with the test that showed you did at the very least, you allowed your 9-year-old to get access to cocaine. Will, great decisions. Interview, I'm sure, disarmed his creepy phone recordings. I can see your guest is moved by the Rekieta story. And Rekieta replies, I didn't have custody of my daughter at the time I could get a meaningful counter test. Just making excuses. And also, you're saying that you didn't have custody of your daughter? At any time you're starting a defense of yourself with, I didn't have custody of my daughter at the time? Not great. Not a great way to start off any defense. Fuck Nick and his idea that there are people who aren't really concerned. Nick replies, no, just not her. Which, if you watch the full interview, which I'll link, you'd see it totally makes sense that she would care. It makes absolute sense that she would be invested in this. Yeah, that's the same one there. This guy's got some tweets from Nick. Rekieta tweet spree in progress. Knit because I'm tough, but because things make you mad, Yahar shouldn't. And that's a direct quote. I forgot to tell you all, I grew up in the 80s before you all became pussies. Haha, internet tough guy Rekieta is my favorite arc. What was tough about it? Calling everyone a pussy from your keyboard isn't inherently tough, it's what nerds do. But calling everyone a pussy as if you're not one is playing the tough guy routine, which was proven in the 2019 case, Pussy versus Internet flag. You are a pussy, it's obvious. Knit because I'm tough, but because things make you mad, Yahar shouldn't. You should get your testosterone checked for soy. Which, I'm not a doctor or anything, but do you check the soy levels of testosterone? I don't think that's a thing. Steve replied to that 80s tweet, I just hope you're sober. Nick replies, why? But yes, I've been sober since June 5th, as I've stated many times. Maybe don't publicly state when there was or wasn't sobriety until after your court case. That seems like a better plan to me. But Third World Aristocrat says, rest in peace, good ceiling cat. He's gone. Rekieta only has the evil ceiling cat to listen to now. It's a pretty good one, I thought. Yeah, here's that same video of Nick Rekieta doing some snarling. Very, very disturbing stuff. But Yeah, I think you kind of get an idea of what's going on in Nick's life lately from that, so we can probably call it there. And yeah, very entertaining. The fact that on top of all this other stuff, he is no longer licensed to practice law, and he might even be losing a little bit more money if he wasn't lying about having active clients that require no court work. So, I mean, that really would be a great cherry on top of all of this if he just lost another source of income.